In 2016, I wrote and acted in a short film titled Whispers. It's about a young man who experiences a psychotic break due to an unspecified illness. At the time, I knew very little about severe mental illnesses, though I did my best to portray what it might look like if someone were to experience psychosis. Little did I know that just 1 year later, I would experience a psychotic break myself, and subsequently be diagnosed with bipolar disorder.
So, I guess when I think and talk about bipolar disorder, usually I start with sort of the accepted criteria for it. It consists of a persistently elevated or irritable mood for a certain duration of time. I think it's like a week.
The changes that I saw in your behavior were when you came home from college. You were really just a different person. You were arrogant and confrontational, and everything was at an extreme level. It was just very intense and obvious that something had changed.
I'm Huda Nasir, and I have a sibling with bipolar disorder. When I first realized my brother sort of had an issue, I was definitely young. I thought at first it was because of him just being a teenager, being angry all the time and moody, because, I heard when teenagers go through puberty, that's what they do. They get really moody and they get really irritable.
When you're watching somebody go through this for the first time, hypomania is very hard to discern from other sort of normal issues that especially, people in their late teens, early 20s go through, arrogance, thinking you know it all, driving too fast, staying up too late. All of those things are there's a parallel track.
Everybody's experience is going to be different, but generally what we find is that people who have a manic episode will also experience a depressive episode.
I can remember thinking when you were manic, if indeed you were bipolar, I would rather see you depressed than manic because you were so hard to manage with mania. But then you got depressed and it was awful. The only thing I can say about depression is it does seem to be the side of the disorder where you're willing to reach out to people for help because it's so painful.
I still to this day am very confused by bipolar disorder. I do know that there's manic episodes and depressive episodes. I just don't understand how it happens. With bipolar disorder, it just kind of comes out of nowhere.
I know that your brain is racing and that can tip into psychosis, and that we've experienced that.
The things that psychosis entails are, delusions, which are like fixed, rigid beliefs that are not congruent with the sort of what one would expect from someone's cultural or social milieu. Hallucinations, which are perceptual disturbances, so that somebody is experiencing sensory input where there's not actually that input. And then disorganized thinking and behavior. So it's a slightly different thing that's going on.
As a parent, it's extremely difficult to watch your child go through something like this. And I think we're always sort of second guessing and blaming ourselves. but this is a manageable disorder.
In general, the way that I see what I do, I want to work with somebody to help them figure out what's important to them, like how they would define recovery. And then I want to help them meet those goals by addressing whatever the barriers are. In terms of specific interventions, I mean, here we practice, their primary intervention is CBT for psychosis. And I'm also interested in a number of other therapies that I incorporate into my work here, whether it's mindfulness-based psychotherapies or contextual behavioral interventions like acceptance and commitment therapy.
Having bipolar disorder is not just affecting the person that has it. It affects everyone, family members, friends, loved ones. A big circle of people are affected by this. And that's why it's important to remember that there is help, and you kind of have to stick together, and everybody has to be on the same page. I mean, I know that your dad and I definitely are, I think our relationship became stronger because we were sort of dealing with this together. And so, there's always a silver lining.